this is the first lesson for laws of exponents. This lesson and then lesson 2 is basically going to go over what the foldable explains to you. So if you are in my block 4 class, you're actually going to make the foldable tomorrow. If you're in my block 1 and 2, you've already made the foldable. This just kind of explains it a little bit more for you. All right, in this example, 3 to the 4th, the base is going to be the 3, and that's just the number that you're being multiplied. The exponent is going to be the 4, meaning I'm going to take my 3 and I'm going to multiply it 4 times. But that means it's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. One thing that kids get confused on is they think, oh, 3 to the 4th, I'm doing 3 times 4. But it's really saying 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So your exponent tells you how many times you're multiplying the base number. For standard form, it's when you actually do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and your answer is your standard form, which in this case, 3 to the 4th power is 81. The 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 part, this is actually going to be called the expanded form. And I would recommend that for the time being, just take the extra few minutes and write out an expanded form just to help you understand the laws a little bit better. Then after a while you won't need to, but if you're confused, write it out in expanded form first and then simplify it. It'll make it easier on you. The first law is x to the a times x to the b is the same thing as when you have x to the a plus b. So what this means is when you have the same base, in other words, the base here is my x. When you have the same base and you're multiplying, you're just going to add the exponents up top. So in this first example, my base is the same and it's 2, so my answer is going to be 2. Now I'm going to take my 3 and add my 4, so my answer is 2 to the 7th power. And this second example, and this is where it gets a little confusing, you have to look and see what the base is. The base in this case is my x. Reason for that being is because that is what's attached to the exponent. The 2 and the 3 are not the bases. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these two numbers because they're just whole numbers. I get my 6. My base is my x, and then I'm going to add my exponents. I'm going to add my 3 and my 2, which gives me 5. So my answer for this one is 6x to the 5th. Alright, so the next law is x to the a all raised to the power of b is the same thing as doing x to the power of a times b. So all that means is that when you have a power to a power, because I have a as a power, because it's raised to an exponent, and that's raised to a power, which is my b. So you may hear me say power to a power means multiply. That's what I mean by that. The easiest thing I think is when you have your parentheses like this, I always say, okay, well, the parentheses we always know means multiply. So that's how I remember to multiply a times my b. That's how I remember the actual law, if you will. So for this first example, I have my base is my 3, my exponent's 4, raised to the 2nd power. So it's really like saying I have 3 to the 4th and then 3 to the 4th. And 4 times 2 is 8. So my answer is really 3 to the 8th power. Because again, the 4 times the 2 gives me my 8. For the second example, x to the 3rd raised to the 2nd power. It's 3 times 2, which gives me 6. You could also think of it x to the 3rd, and then I have x to the 3rd. So when we multiply like that, we have to add it. So 3 plus 3 gives me my 6. If you need to write it out like that, go for it. Now, this last example is a little different. My base is my x because that's what is attached to my exponent. However, anytime you have a whole number, with no exponent, that's the same thing as having it raised to the first power, because if it's raised to the first power, we just have 1. So in this case, I really have 3 to the first power times my 4, and then I have x raised to the second power times 4, because you have to distribute this 4 to both exponents. And again, even though the 3 didn't have an exponent with it, it's just like it's raised to the power of 1. Just like if we just have 1x, we don't always write 1x, we just write x equals. So it's the same kind of situation. So my answer for this one is really going to be 3 to the 4th and then x to the 8th. 1 times 4 gives me my 4, and 2 times 4 gives me my 8.